All right, part 2 of the felt plush unit. Last time we made this guy, now we're making a banana, which is obviously the natural progression of how this would go. So if you need a refresher on how to do the blanket stitch or the whip stitch, you can refer to that previous video. So for supplies, you're gonna need your needle from last time, the pattern on my desk, a sheet of white and yellow felt, a little baggie of white embroidery floss, a pencil, and again, scissors. So first things first, you will need to carefully cut out both of these little ovals. The important thing with this is that the larger oval gets traced onto the yellow felt and the smaller oval gets traced onto the white felt. Also, and I really can't stress this enough, please don't trace these with a Sharpie, because if you do, you'll have a big ol' nasty line going down the seam, and that is just no good. That is why you want to use a pencil for the tracing for the sake of the craftsmanship. Once we have all of these ovals traced and cut out, make sure that there are 3 white ones and 3 slightly larger yellow ones. We are ready to begin sewing. We will start off with the white. Grab 2 of the ovals and place these together with the trace side facing out. You should see a small line right along the edge. Now we're going to start sewing here and stop right here, leaving about 1/2 inch between where the sewing stops and the other corner of the oval. Now like before, thread the needle and tie the knot. Go through both pieces of felt at the corner and then blanket stitch until you reach the aforementioned point and fasten off. So it should look like this, basically just a little V. Now make sure to watch really carefully on this next part, because this is where people tend to get a little bit twisted. We're not going to turn it inside out quite yet. Instead, we're going to get the 3rd oval and place it with the trace side facing out right here. So take a moment before sewing this to check and see that there is a seam on the right, a piece of felt, and a space on the left where the next seam is going. And like before, we're going to start at the corner and fasten off 1/2 inch before the next corner. So now you should have something like this, right? 2 seams on the side and then an open flap where the 3rd seam will go, and the little pencil marks all visible on the edges of all 3 pieces. Now we will sew the 3rd seam as before, and with that, it is ready to flip inside out. So go ahead and do that. We will then stuff to your preferred squishiness and whip stitch the open flaps together. You can see now why it was important to have the trace side facing out while we were sewing, because now that we have turned it inside out, there are no telling marks on the seams and it is nice and clean craftsmanship. For the yellow, we will do almost the exact same thing. For these seams, we will start at the corner and go about halfway to fasten off. So seam number 1 will look like this when it is all finished. Seam number 2 will have your project looking like this, and then seam number 3 will look like this. Like before, we have all of the trace sides facing out. And when you're at this point, you just need to turn it inside out and then stick the banana portion into the peel, and there you have it. Now a few optional finishing details that I like to do involve the hot glue gun. I think the banana looks a little bit floppy and weird left just like this, so I put a small dot of hot glue on the edge of the peel and bend it over to press it onto the banana like so. Once I have that finished for all 3 peels, it will look just a little bit like this. So another thing that you can do if you prefer your bananas to be sentient is to glue on some googly eyes and potentially draw on a mouth with a Sharpie. So I didn't intend this, but my banana ended up having the facial expression capturing the emotion of impending doom. So if you don't want that, you may consider drawing a different mouth than I did, or just leaving the banana as it is, and that is also fine. And that is it for the banana plush. So like before, make sure you take a picture of this and put it on canvas. And you can either stick your needle in the banana or the pillow. Whatever it is that you do, just make sure that you bring it back for our next class, because next time we're making a dinosaur.
What you doing in the club on a Thursday? She said she only here for a girl birthday.